You have probably seen this photo 100 times. Maybe you scrolled past it online, or maybe someone sent it to you with a caption asking if it was real. And every single time, the reaction is the same. People stare at it, tilt their heads, and say there is absolutely no way that is not edited. But here's the thing. It is completely real. No filters. No digital tricks. No one went into a computer and moved anything around. What you are looking at is a single frozen frame from one of the most beloved family shows in television history. And the story behind it is so chaotic, so unexpected, and so full of behind-the-scenes madness that most people who watch it for the first time cannot believe what they are hearing. This is the Brady Bunch, and nothing about making it was as clean as it looked on your screen. Long before that photo existed, the show was already falling apart behind the camera. The Brady Bunch sold America a dream. 6 kids, 2 loving parents, 1 cheerful housekeeper, and a house where every problem got solved before the final scene. Viewers ate it up. They wanted to believe a family could really look like that. But the people actually making the show knew something different. Every single week, something went wrong. And not small things either. The kind of things that would make a normal person walk off the job and never come back. Start with the basics. The set itself was a problem from day one. The house looked beautiful on television, but in real life it was built fast and cheap. Walls that seemed solid could shake if you leaned on them wrong. Props that were supposed to stay in place had a habit of suddenly giving up. During one scene that was supposed to feel completely normal and calm, a room divider that was standing behind the actors just folded. It did not slowly tip. It collapsed all at once, like someone had pulled the legs out from under it. The cast froze. The crew scrambled. And everyone had to start the whole scene over from scratch. The dog was another problem nobody saw coming. The original family dog passed away during the first season. The production moved fast and brought in a replacement so viewers would never notice. But the new dog had zero interest in doing what anyone asked. Trainers would spend an entire afternoon trying to get him to walk across the room on cue, sit in the right spot, or even just look in the correct direction. He never cooperated. Scenes dragged on. Smiles stayed frozen on tired faces while the crew whispered behind the cameras trying to figure out what to do next. Then there were the lights. Television sets in that era used powerful studio lights that pumped out serious heat. The kitchen set in particular turned into something close to an oven. The youngest cast members had to stand under those lights for long stretches, and you could see the effect on their faces. Flushed, shiny, tired. Susan Olsen, who played the youngest daughter Cindy, fainted during one of those long kitchen shoots. She simply went down. The crew rushed over to cool her off and get her some water. Christopher Knight, who played Peter, nearly fainted during a separate rehearsal when the heat in the studio climbed too high. Both of them were expected to walk back to their marks and smile for the camera the moment they felt steady enough to stand. The trouble was not only physical. The cast also had emotions running underneath the surface that cameras sometimes picked up in ways nobody planned. Eve Plum, who played Jan, genuinely struggled with feeling overlooked. Her character got fewer storylines. The producers gave more screen time and more interesting plots to Marcia. And that frustration was real. When Jan's most famous episode came around, the one where she is sick of hearing how great Marcia is at everything, Eve did not have to reach very far. The bitterness in her voice during those scenes was not a performance trick. She already felt it. She just let the camera see it. Barry Williams, who played Greg, had a different kind of problem. He was developing real feelings for Maureen McCormick, who played Marcia, and he had no idea how to hide it. During scenes where their characters were supposed to interact like normal siblings, Barry would glance over at Maureen, and his whole face would shift. She would catch the look and either laugh or look away fast. Directors had to stop filming, reset everyone, and try again. During the Hawaii episodes, the situation became even harder to manage. The setting was relaxed and beautiful, and the two of them naturally drifted closer than the script ever called for. Blocking had to be changed just to keep their chemistry from making the brother and sister relationship on screen look like something else entirely. Robert Reed, who played the father Mike Brady, created a completely different kind of tension. He was serious about acting. He believed that every scene had to make logical sense in the real world, and when a script crossed a line he found unacceptable, he said so loudly. His arguments with the writing team became a regular part of the shooting schedule. Crew members knew that if they heard raised voices behind a closed door before filming started, the day was going to run long. By the time the show reached its final season, the clashes had gotten worse. Reed refused to perform a scene in the last episode because he believed the situation in the script was completely impossible. The argument went nowhere. He walked off. The production finished the final episode of the Brady Bunch without the father of the Brady family in it. All of this tension, all of this exhaustion, all of these behind-the-scenes cracks were building up episode after episode. And then came the afternoon that nobody on set would ever forget. The afternoon that created the photo. The episode was about noses. Specifically, it was about Marcia getting hit in the nose by a football. Simple concept. Should have been easy to film. It was not. Christopher Knight, who played the brother whose throw was supposed to connect, tried the toss again and could not make it look right. Either the ball curved away, or it dropped short, or the timing was completely off. The frustration on his face was visible. The crew tried to encourage him, but after a string of failed attempts, everyone had run out of patience. That was when producer Lloyd Schwartz stepped onto the set, picked up the football, and told the room he would take care of it. He said he would get it done in one throw. Nobody disagreed with him. The cameras were reset. Maureen McCormick, who played Marcia, was positioned and ready. She had run through this moment so many times that she was barely thinking about it anymore. Her body was on autopilot. She knew a football was coming. She did not know how hard or how fast. Lloyd pulled back and let it go. The ball moved faster than anyone in that room expected. There was no time to react. It hit Maureen directly in the face with a sound that everyone on set heard clearly. Not a dull thud. A sharp, blunt crack that cut right through the silence of the studio. Her head snapped back. Her hands flew up, but they were already way too late. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth dropped open. And in that exact split second, a camera caught it all. That is the photo. That single frozen frame, with the ball hanging in the air right against her nose, her hair lifted from the impact, and her face locked in an expression that looks so extreme it could not possibly be real. It looks like something a special effects team spent 3 days designing. But nobody designed anything. That is a real person in real pain in the exact moment everything went wrong. The seconds after the photo are what really show you how serious it was. Maureen grabbed her face immediately. Her eyes filled up and the tears came fast. She was not performing emotion. She was crying from the shock and the pain. The set stopped completely. Crew members moved toward her, some apologizing, some unsure of what to say. Christopher Knight stood frozen nearby. He had not even thrown the ball, but the accident happened inside his scene, next to his character, and the guilt hit him anyway. He kept saying he was sorry over and over even though the throw had not come from him at all. Lloyd Schwartz stepped back quietly. He understood the moment called for space. Makeup had streaked down Maureen's face. She was trembling and trying to steady her breathing. The whole set went quiet in a way it almost never did. Then the producers made a decision that people are still talking about today. They kept the footage. They watched the take-back and decided that the genuine, accidental, painful, chaotic truth of that moment was more powerful than anything they could recreate by trying again. So the take stayed. The photo became real Brady Bunch history, and the moment went from a production disaster into one of the most iconic scenes the show ever produced. That was not the only time something like that happened either. The show had a pattern of turning real accidents and real emotions into television. When Susan Olsen scraped her knee during filming one afternoon, the footage stayed in the final cut. You can spot it if you know to look. She walks slightly differently in certain shots, being careful about where she puts her foot down. They left it in because it felt true. During the beauty pageant storyline, Maureen had to switch between heavy stage makeup and a stripped-down natural look very quickly. The crew scrubbed her face between takes and were too rough around her eyes. The sting was real. She was still reacting to it when the cameras rolled for her close-up. The vulnerability on her face in those shots, the watery eyes, and the slightly unsettled expression, came directly from that discomfort. The Hawaii episodes brought even more trouble on location. The ground around the volcanic rock formations looked smooth on camera, but felt sharp and uneven underfoot. Several of the kids slipped and bruised themselves during shooting. Makeup covered the bruises, but the stiffness and how they moved sometimes stayed in the final footage because reshooting every scene was too expensive and deadlines were too tight. And then there were the moments that came from real emotion rather than real accidents. When the storyline involved Alice potentially leaving the family, the kids fell apart. They genuinely loved N.B. Davis, the actress who played Alice, and the idea of losing her, even in a fictional plot, hit them harder than any director expected. When they cried in those scenes, it was not a technique. It was love. It was fear. It slipped off the script and onto the screen, and audiences felt it immediately, even without understanding exactly why. That is the real story behind the Brady Bunch. Not the matching outfits or the perfect house, or the lessons wrapped up neatly before the credits rolled. The real story is the collapsed props and the fainting kids, and the producer who threw a football too hard, and the girl who cried real tears into a camera because the pain was real. The story is a cast full of people doing their best inside conditions that were far harder than anything viewers ever imagined. The photo is not edited. It never was. But what makes it extraordinary is not just the timing or the expression frozen on Maureen's face. What makes it extraordinary is everything that had to happen before that moment. Every exhausted afternoon, every failed take, every argument behind a closed door, every kid standing under brutal lights, trying to keep smiling. All of that pressure built up over years. And on one regular afternoon on a regular set, it all came together in a single split second that a camera happened to catch. The Brady Bunch looked perfect because everyone worked incredibly hard to make it look that way. But perfection was never the truth. The truth was messier, more human, more painful, and honestly a lot more interesting than anything the scripts ever put on paper. Now, you know what really happened. And the next time you see that photo, you will never look at it the same way again.